Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our new session on Alice Walker. Her short story, Everyday Use, we have to study. We will begin our discussions on this short story and the writer with this short description of the life, the career of Alice Walker. As an American author, she represents the Afro-American people and their culture, their traditions. Surely a feminist writer who propagates the rights of women through her writings. She was a poet, she was a novelist, a story writer, a screen writer, that is, the script writer, and so many other genres she tried her hand on. Especially, she went into filmmaking as well to earn her bread and butter. She also belongs to the famous state of Georgia, the black state as it is labeled again. Therefore, we will find hints of racial distinction, the racial conflict in her writings here and there. Dear students, as a lady from the black community of Georgia, Alice Walker has got a multifarious face. She was a novelist, she was a poet, she wrote short stories, she went into filmmaking, engaged herself in screenwriting, script writing, and she was also an active participant in the movement of freedom for rights for black people. Also met Arthur the Junior, that is the main protagonist of the black freedom movement. Alice Walker was born on February 9th, 1944. She was the eighth and the youngest child of her parents, Minnie Tallulah Grant and Willie Lee Walker. Her parents were laborers in the fields, coming from the African black race. They worked as field laborers, sharecroppers, that is the label they are labeled in that state of Georgia, a very poor state overall. Her parents, called the Walkers, lived in Enton, a small town in Georgia, and were sharecroppers, the Haris we called in our own language, tenant farmers, that is, who gave up part of their crop as rent. As a child, Alice Walker was a precocious, bright, intelligent type of girl. But at 8 years old, her world and demeanor, her disposition, appearance changed in an accident that affected all her life. She was just 8 years old when she was playing a drama, a play, Cowboys and Indians, a local folklore, with her brother. She was accidentally shot by her brother and blinded in her right eye. And that was the biggest deep scar she carried on her face all through her life. Intimidated and went into introspection. This accident in the early childhood had a very profound effect on her personality, her appearance as a child, as a growing child. But she tolerated it. She persevered. She just came out of this havoc in the early childhood and grappled all the difficulties of life with a stout heart. Albeit shy, Alice Walker didn't fade into the background. Rather, during her education, during her schooling, during her socialization, she showed her talent. She got distinctions. She got her education completed with the will to do it, with the force of the inner self. In 1961, Alice began her college career as a grown up girl at Spelman College, where she became active in the civil rights movement as a student. After 2 years, she transferred to Sarah Lawrence College in New York and, still active in civil rights, was invited to the home of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the main man in this activism against suppression, oppression of the black community. In her activism for human rights, especially the rights for black people, the black community, she was awarded Youth World Peace Award as well in recognition for attending Youth World Peace Festival held in Finland. Keeping on her activities as an active member of the youth, voicing against the oppressions and suppressions and high-handedness of some people, especially the white, against the black community, she continued rigorously, devotedly her education. Then she graduated from Sarah Lawrence College, New York in 1965. In 1967, she married Mellon Roseman Leventhal, a civil rights attorney, a white man. And this was a great combination at that time, a marriage of a white man to a black woman. They were the first legally married in New York interracial couple in the state of Mississippi. This was a very divisive time in the United States of America, especially in Mississippi. The two races, the whites and the blacks, were waging war against each other. Very critical moment of history. It was the time, it was the tumultuous time when Martin Luther King was assassinated, and this movement of human rights of the blacks got a shock and fire. In 1969, while serving as the writer in residence at Jackson State College and Togallo College, Alice Walker completed her first novel, The Third Life of Grange Copeland, and her daughter Rebecca was born there. A voracious writer, Alice Walker has written more than 7 novels, including Pulitzer Prize winning the bestseller The Color Purple. Dear students, Alice Walker has also written 4 short story collections, smaller and larger, and 4 children's books, and many volumes of essays and poetry collections. Being a prolific writer, she has produced a great number of essays and prose writings, scripts for films, movies, and many books for children, stories, and other poetic collections. Dear students, although she is not as renowned a poet as Palad, yet her poetry carries hints of feminism here and there. Dear students, it is a great work by a great writer that Alice Walker's books, almost over 15 million copies of the Color Purple novel, and still the counting is going on, has been published throughout the world, and her works have been translated into more than 24 languages of the world and are now a world celebrity indeed. Since her days at Spelman College and Sarah Lawrence College, New York, Alice Walker has been an outspoken political activist all around the globe, a world celebrity indeed, from Cuba to the Gaza Strip and to America to Africa, indeed. Dear students, Alice Walker herself describes her active political activity in these words. I have admired and loved Fidel Castro, Cuban federal, since 1959, when he and his companions came down from the mountains to attempt to fashion a new society for their people. There was Fidel, there was Celia, there was Chi, there was Camillo, and so many others who loved humanity and could not bear to see it starving and in rags, humiliated endlessly in its ignorance and poverty, beaten, murdered, or imprisoned for being desperate and poor. These impoverished hordes represented my own ancestors too, grandparents, parents, and far too many of my living kin. She rather assimilates herself with all the cruelties around the globe, as she had been a victim of these cruelties in the hands of the white race living in the state of Georgia. Alice Walker considers Israel to be among the biggest terrorists in the Middle East. In 2011, Alice bravely joined a flotilla of ships who tried to break Israel's maritime blockade of the Gaza Strip. She joined the flotilla of ships who were attempting to raise awareness about what was happening in the Gaza Strip and to bring supplies to the Palestinians there. She has been a Palestinian activist since the Six Day War in 1967. Dear students, no doubt Alice Walker is a staunch feminist, and she introduced the idea of womanism instead of feminism because she felt women of the black color were not properly represented in the movement. Hence, she proclaimed, womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. Dear students, when we look at her early life, in 1952, when she was 8 years old, playing Cowboys and Indians with her older brothers, Curtis and Bobby, Curtis accidentally shot Alice in the eye with a BB gun. To avoid punishment, the brothers concocted a fiction and pressured their sister to accept it. The physical result was that Alice lost the sight in her right eye, which developed a disfiguring white scar. Psychologically, she grew more introspective, contending with feelings of sadness, alienation, and betrayal. An accident became, as she recalled, my accident, thereby absolving my brothers of my any blame. She took the blame on herself. Going through the hard days of her early life as a child, belonging to a poor family of cotton pickers and the crop shearers, she was lucky enough that she got a mother who was not an educated lady, but she provided the stimulus, the impetus for the young girl to go ahead in education. With three magic gifts from her mother in hand, a typewriter, a sewing machine, and a suitcase, Walker enrolled at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1961, where she quickly became involved in the civil rights movement as a young girl. She developed important friendships with the historians Howard Zinn and Staunton Lind. With the assistance of Lind, Walker transferred to Sarah Lawrence College in 1964. At Sarah Lawrence College, New York, Walker's commitment to becoming a writer was nurtured. There she got chances to show her talent as a writer. After graduation, Walker worked for the New York welfare systems and learned about blacks who were evicted from their homes for attempting to register to vote. She married a lawyer, whom she later divorced, however. One daughter, Rebecca Grant, was born in 1969. Dear students, as we have already noted that Alice Walker is a prolific writer. She has attempted many genres. Walker writes in multiple genres: novels, poetry, short stories, and non-fiction writings. Her fiction focuses on the struggles on African Americans, especially women and their oppressions. Pulitzer Prize winning in 1983 for her novel The Color Purple, which got adapted into movies and plays later on. Dear students, let's conclude our short discussion on Alice Walker. Born in rural Anton, Georgia in 1944, Alice Walker was the youngest of 8 children. When she was 8 years old, she was blinded in one eye. She endured years of teasing and low self-esteem throughout childhood, but nonetheless graduated as valedictorian of her high school with courage, dedication. Then she received a scholarship to Spelman College, a historically black college in Georgia, and surely got great stimulus, impetus from her mother. When she left home, her mother, Mimi, gave her three things: a sewing machine to encourage self sufficiency, a suitcase to nudge her curious spirit, and a typewriter to nurture her budding writing talents. Walker transferred from Spelman to Sarah Lawrence College in New York, and she graduated from there in 1965. As we have known that Walker is a prolific writer, working in a variety of genres, including children's literature, poetry, non-fiction, screenwriting, short story writing, etc. She is best known for her novels and short stories in which she gives voice to a doubly oppressed group, African American women. The Color Purple, 1982, is perhaps her most well known novel, winning the Pulitzer Prize in 1983 and inspiring a film adaptation later on. Alice Walker impresses us as a tireless crusader on behalf of women. Walker writes fiction that often speaks out against domestic violence, sexual abuse, racism, and female genital mutilation. Shying away from the term feminist, Walker has called herself a womanist in her writings, committed to freeing women from all forms of oppression. Walker's fiction has been the subject of controversy for her harsh depictions of men and certain cultural practices, such as female genital mutilation, the subject of possessing the secret of joy. Alice Walker, as a short story writer, impresses us for her straightforward, simple writing style. She is a writer who focuses on the conflict between the old and the new, the conflict between the past and present, especially the conflict of the races, the black and the white. She is outspoken and appears to be a politically active person in her writings as well. She speaks for women, surely, but she also speaks for the oppressed, subjugated class of the black people in the hands of the white race. This story, that will be our main target, everyday use, has got a very simple domestic affair to be settled in by the members of the family. A conflict on a very common thing, the quilts, as a token of family, as a token of history, as a token of tradition, and how to preserve these quilts through everyday use or to preserve them as some monument. This is the question that will be discussed in our short story in everyday use. Thank you very much, dear students, for participating in today's brief discussion. See you soon, inshallah, in our next discussion on the topic. Till then, it is Allah Hafiz and goodbye. Thank you very much again.